The agreement. The Terran diplomatic vessel Olive Branch drifted silently into the docking bay of the massive Estrine Alliance station. Through the viewport, Ambassador Elena Vasquez watched as the alien structure enveloped them. A cathedral of gleaming metals unknown to human science, punctuated by pulsing blue energy conduits. After 2 centuries of wondering if humanity was alone in the cosmos, first contact had come suddenly, and now representatives of Earth stood at the threshold of a galactic community. Final docking procedures complete. Ambassador, Captain Rhodes announced from behind her. The Astrian delegation awaits in the central chamber. Elena nodded, straightening the collar of her formal diplomatic uniform. Remember what we discussed, she said to her team of 12 specialists who represented Earth's diverse regions, cultures, and areas of expertise. We observe, we learn, but we do not agree to anything without consultation. Dr. Marcus Chin, the team's xenobiologist, stepped forward. The intelligence briefing identified 7 distinct species in the Estrine Alliance. We should be prepared for significant biological and cultural differences. That's putting it mildly, Major Sarah Okonkwo muttered, her hand never straying far from her ceremonial sidearm. As head of security, the potential threats weighed heavily on her mind. Remember, we don't know their intentions yet. As the airlock cycled and the doors parted, the human delegation stepped into alien territory for the first time in history. They were greeted by a delegation of beings so diverse in form that several members of the human team had to suppress gasps. At the forefront stood the Vishar, tall, slender beings with translucent skin that revealed complex circulatory systems flowing with luminescent fluid. Their 4 eyes tracked movement with unsettling precision, and when they spoke, their mouths didn't move. Instead, vibrations emanated from specialized organs along their throats. Humanity welcomes the opportunity to join discussions with the Estrine Alliance, Elena said, bowing slightly. The lead Vishar, who introduced itself as High Counselor Tellari, responded through a translation device. The Alliance observes your species with great interest. Your rapid technological advancement is noteworthy. What followed was a procession through vast corridors, where representatives of other member species joined them. The Morith, insectoid beings who communicated through complex pheromone patterns and translator devices. The Canteri, massive creatures resembling Earth's extinct woolly mammoths, but with manipulative tentacles instead of trunks. The Zix, who floated in personal gravity fields, their gaseous bodies contained in specialized environmental suits. 3 days of preliminary discussions revealed the structure of the Alliance. 7 advanced species united by mutual economic interests and defensive pacts, controlling over 300 star systems. The humans learned that they had been monitored for decades, their broadcasts intercepted, their probes examined, their development tracked. Your species progressed from primitive computing to quantum communication in less than a century, Counselor Tillari noted during a session on technological exchange. Such acceleration is concerning to some members of the Alliance. We are adaptable, Elena replied diplomatically. Necessity has driven much of our innovation. Indeed, your planetary conflicts have spurred remarkable military technologies. The implied judgment hung in the air, unaddressed. By the 5th day, the discussions turned to formal treaty considerations. The Alliance offered access to established trade routes, limited technological sharing, and the rights to colonize a habitable planet they designated as NL7, which orbited a stable yellow star 30 light-years from Earth. In return, they requested access to Earth's biodiversity. Certain rare elements abundant on Earth, but scarce elsewhere, and human participation in Alliance research initiatives. The terms seemed reasonable, even generous, considering the vast technological gap between humanity and the Alliance members. On the 7th day, as the treaty neared completion, Elena introduced an additional clause that caused visible confusion among the alien delegates. Article 38, she stated firmly, the harming of human children, defined as humans who have not reached physical maturity, shall be considered an act of war against all of humanity, and will be responded to with full military force. Counselor Telleri's skin rippled with patterns that the human delegation had learned indicated confusion or surprise. This seems oddly specific. All sentient beings protect their young. Why formalize what is inherent? Alina's expression remained neutral. It is a cultural imperative for our species, a non-negotiable point. The Canteri representative's tentacles curled inward, a gesture of contemplation. Your species places unusual emphasis on individual offspring. Most evolved species recognize the necessity of occasional loss for resource optimization. Major Okonkwo tensed visibly, but Alina placed a calming hand on her arm. Nevertheless, this is our requirement. Our history has taught us to be explicit in such matters. After a brief conference among the Alliance representatives, Telleri returned. We find this provision unnecessary but harmless. It will be included as requested. What the Alliance representatives failed to understand was the evolutionary and cultural significance of this clause. Humans had evolved as a species with unusually long childhood development periods, requiring intensive parental investment. This biological reality had shaped human societies for millennia. The protection of children was not merely a preference but a fundamental aspect of human psychology. The treaty was signed with great ceremony. Within months, the first human colony ships departed for NL7, which the colonists named Nova Terra. The planet thrived under human settlement, with cities rising rapidly from the fertile soil. Relations with the Alliance remained cordial, if somewhat distant. For 5 years, humanity expanded cautiously, establishing research outposts and trading posts in Alliance space while maintaining a careful diplomatic presence. The technology gained from the Alliance accelerated human development by centuries, and Earth's economy flourished with interstellar trade. Unknown to the human diplomats, however, discord was growing within the Alliance. The Morith, in particular, viewed human expansion with increasing alarm. They breed too rapidly. Supreme Hive Director Zeke chittered to the Morith ruling council. Their resource consumption patterns are inefficient and wasteful. They colonize aggressively. The treaty permits their settlement on Nova Terra, reminded Subdirector Makis. Treaties can be reinterpreted when necessary, Zeke responded. We have done so before when species threatened Alliance stability. The decision was made quietly, without formal Alliance approval. A demonstration would be conducted, a lesson in the realities of galactic politics. After careful observation of human patterns, the Morith identified a vulnerability. On Nova Terra, the Clearwater Education Center prepared for its annual field trip to the crystal formations, a geological wonder where massive crystalline structures rose from the planet's surface, creating natural labyrinths of stunning beauty. 73 children, ranging in age from 8 to 12 years old, boarded 3 hover transports under the supervision of their teachers. The day was clear, the double suns of Nova Terra casting twin shadows as the children excitedly pointed out features of their new homeworld's landscape. None noticed the Morith stealth vessel tracking their movement from high atmosphere. When the transports entered the narrow canyon leading to the crystal formations, the Morith vessel fired a precisely calibrated pulse weapon. The lead transport's propulsion systems failed catastrophically, sending it plummeting to the canyon floor. The second transport, attempting to avoid collision, scraped against the canyon wall and spun out of control. When the rescue teams arrived, they found 17 children dead and 34 severely injured. The Morith observers recorded the human response, noting the extreme emotional displays, the immediate cessation of normal activities throughout the colony, and the rapid deployment of security forces. They react disproportionately to offspring loss, Zeke observed as the data was analyzed. This emotional instability will make them more amenable to negotiation. They will recognize the inherent risk of frontier settlement and adjust their expansion accordingly. It was a fundamental misunderstanding of human psychology. The message from Nova Terra reached Earth within hours, transmitted through the quantum communication network. Treaty violation. Article 38 breached. 17 children dead. Evidence of deliberate Morith attack. In the United Nations Emergency Council chamber, Secretary General Kwame Nkrumah read the report in silence, then looked up at the gathered leaders of Earth's nations. "Initiate Phoenix Protocol," he said quietly. Across Earth, military installations that had remained hidden from Alliance observation came alive. Orbital platforms disguised as weather satellites transformed, revealing weapon systems of devastating power. From underground hangars and oceanic depths, vessels emerged that dwarfed the diplomatic ships the Alliance had observed. In her office at UN headquarters, Elena Vasquez received the notification and closed her eyes briefly in sorrow. She had hoped this day would never come. Opening a direct channel to the Estrine Alliance headquarters, she delivered a message of terrible simplicity. "You were warned. Article 38 has been breached. 17 of our children are dead by Morith action. The response begins in 24 hours. On the Estrine Alliance Central Station, Councillor Tillery received the message with growing concern. The Morith representatives denied involvement, claiming the incident was a tragic accident caused by equipment failure. The other Alliance species counseled caution, dismissing human threats as emotional posturing from a less advanced species. "Their technology is primitive compared to ours," the Canteri representative rumbled. "Their military capacity is negligible. They will demand compensation, perhaps sanctions against the Morith, but they cannot possibly pose a threat to the Alliance." Tillery's skin pulsed with patterns of uncertainty. "I am not so certain." There was something in Ambassador Vasquez's tone. "I recommend immediate investigation and, if warranted, reparations." But the Alliance Council was slow to act, bureaucracy and indifference delaying any meaningful response. They could not imagine the storm that was about to break upon them. 24 hours later, exactly as promised, humanity revealed just how thoroughly they had deceived the Alliance about their true capabilities. The consequence: Admiral Sophia Rice stood on the bridge of the EDF Retribution, the flagship of Earth's First Fleet. Behind her, visible through the massive viewport, 50 warships moved in perfect formation, vessels whose existence had been concealed from Alliance observers through elaborate deception protocols. For 5 years, humanity had presented a carefully crafted image of technological inferiority, while building a military force designed for one specific purpose. "All ships report ready, Admiral," Commander Jackson reported. "Weapons systems green across the board." Sophia nodded, her expression grave. "Begin Phase 1. The target was Hive Cluster Alpha, the primary Morith colony in the Sirius system. It housed over 3 million Morith citizens and served as a major production center for their biotech industry. The colony operated deep within what the Alliance considered secure territory, protected by automated defense systems and a small military outpost. Those defenses had never been designed to withstand what was coming. In the Alliance Council emergency session, frantic reports began arriving. "Impossible," muttered the Zix representative, their gaseous forms swirling in agitation within their environmental suit. "Humans cannot have this many ships of this size. Our observations were clearly manipulated." Councillor Tillery interrupted, skin flashing with urgent patterns. "They showed us what they wanted us to see." The Morith representative maintained the official denial. "The collective has investigated the Novaterra incident. If any Morith were involved, they acted without authorization. We cannot be held responsible for rogue elements." "Tell that to the humans," the Cantari rumbled. On the displays, the human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel directly above the Morith colony. The ships assumed a spherical formation, surrounding the colony completely. There was no communication, no ultimatum. "They're scanning us," reported a Morith defense coordinator. "Primitive systems. Our countermeasures will." The sentence remained unfinished as every scanning system in the colony simultaneously overloaded, creating a cascading failure through the neural-linked Morith defense network. The primitive scans had been precisely calibrated to exploit the specific frequencies of Morith biotechnology. From the Retribution, Admiral Rice opened a system-wide broadcast. This is Admiral Sophia Rise of the Earth Defense Force. In accordance with Article 38 of the Treaty of First Contact, we are executing a military response to the deliberate killing of 17 human children on Nova Terra. She paused, her voice remaining steady. As a demonstration of restraint, we will not target civilian populations in this first response. You have 30 minutes to evacuate all non-military personnel from defense installations. We will then neutralize all Morith military capability in this system. The Alliance Council watched in disbelief. They cannot possibly penetrate our defenses with their technology, the Morith representative insisted, though their voice held less certainty now. Councillor Tillery's skin had gone almost transparent with stress. I suggest immediate diplomatic intervention, if their claims about the Nova Terra incident are valid. They are not, the Morith representative chittered, and we will not be threatened by a primitive species barely out of their planetary cradle. In orbit above the Morith colony, the evacuation proceeded chaotically. While some military commanders heeded the warning, others prepared defensive measures, activating energy shields and weapons platforms. The 30-minute deadline passed. No further warnings. Admiral Rise ordered, "Execute Precision Strike Package Alpha." From each human vessel, dozens of small craft deployed, not conventional missiles, but autonomous combat drones equipped with technology the Alliance had never observed. The drones moved with impossible speed, evading defensive fire through maneuvers that would have killed organic pilots. First, they targeted the colony's energy shields, not attacking directly but inserting themselves through microscopic fluctuations in the shield harmonics, a vulnerability in Morith technology that human intelligence had identified years earlier. Once inside, the drones released targeted electromagnetic pulses that disabled defense systems without causing structural damage to the surrounding areas. Within 17 minutes, 1 minute for each dead child, every military installation in the Morith colony had been neutralized. Not a single civilian structure was damaged. The precision of the attack was as much a message as the attack itself. Phase 1 complete, Commander Jackson reported. No civilian casualties detected. Military casualties minimal, primarily from Morith neural feedback when their systems failed. Admiral Rise nodded. Prepare Phase 2. Target: Morith Manufacturing World Zeta 9. In the Alliance Council chamber, the mood had shifted from dismissive to deeply concerned. The Morith representative had gone silent, communicating urgently with their leadership through private channels. The other species now looked to Councillor Tillery for guidance. "We must open diplomatic channels immediately," Tillery urged. "The humans have demonstrated both capability and restraint. If their allegations are true, if..." The Canteri representative swung their massive head toward the Morith diplomat. "Your species acted without council approval, didn't they? You violated the treaty." Before the Morith could respond, new alerts sounded. The human fleet had already moved to their second target. This time, they targeted Zeta 9, a primary manufacturing hub for Morith military technology. Again, Admiral Rise broadcast her message. "This is the Earth Defense Force. Zeta 9 has been identified as a primary production facility for the weapons used in the attack on our children. You have 1 hour to evacuate all personnel." In the council chamber, chaos erupted. "They cannot possibly know about Zeta 9's function," the Morith representative exclaimed. "That facility is classified." The implication was not lost on the other council members. The Morith had just inadvertently confirmed both the existence of the secret facility and its connection to the Nova Terra attack. Councillor Tillery's translator struggled to keep up with their rapid speech patterns. "Open a direct channel to their Admiral Rise. Immediately." The connection was established with surprising ease. Admiral Rise appeared on the council's main display, her expression controlled but cold. "Councillor Tillery, I remember you from the treaty negotiations. Admiral, the Council requests an immediate cessation of hostilities to allow for diplomatic resolution," Tillery began. "We acknowledge that a serious breach of treaty may have occurred, but the entire alliance cannot be held responsible for the actions of Article 38 was very clear. Rise interrupted. The harming of human children constitutes an act of war against humanity. Your council dismissed this provision as unnecessary but harmless. You are now learning why it was necessary. The Kantari representative moved forward. What are your demands, Admiral? First, an immediate alliance acknowledgement that the attack was deliberate and in violation of the treaty. Second, surrender of all individuals involved in planning and executing the attack to face human justice. Third, reparations to the families of the children killed and injured. And if these terms are not met, Tillery asked. Admiral Rice's expression didn't change. Then we will demonstrate why harming human children is the one line no species should ever cross. The feed cut. In the silence that followed, the council turned to the Morith representative. The collective cannot accept these terms. They chittered defensively. The incident was merely a strategic demonstration, meant to encourage human compliance with resource allocation guidelines. The loss of immature specimens was regrettable, but the Kantari representative slammed a tentacle against the table. Immature specimens. You speak of children. A distinction without meaning, the Morith insisted. All species lose young. It is part of natural selection. Humans must learn. They never finished the sentence. On the monitors, the human fleet surrounding Zeta 9 had begun their attack. This time, there was no surgical precision, no careful avoidance of collateral damage. The manufacturing world's defensive systems were overwhelmed in minutes. What followed was systematic destruction of every military production facility on the planet. Massive antimatter charges, technology the Alliance had believed beyond human capability, detonated in sequence, leaving craters where factories had stood. The planet's surface was transformed, geography itself rewritten by the force of human retribution. Within 2 hours, Zeta 9's military production capacity had been reduced to zero. Though the humans had permitted evacuation, the economic damage was incalculable. Still, the Morith leadership refused to concede, believing the humans would eventually exhaust their resources or resolve. It was a fatal miscalculation. Phase 3 of the human response targeted not physical infrastructure but information systems. Across Alliance space, quantum-entangled communication networks began to fail as human cyber warfare suites. Technology kept hidden during all previous interactions, executed attacks of unprecedented sophistication. Buried deep within Alliance databases, human intelligence operatives had planted dormant programs years earlier during seemingly innocent technological exchanges. Now activated, these programs began extracting and publicly broadcasting evidence of the Morith decision to attack the human children, including the planning documents and surveillance footage. The Alliance could no longer deny knowledge. Other species within the Alliance, seeing the evidence and witnessing human military capability, began distancing themselves from the Morith. Several issued independent condemnations and offers to mediate. But the Morith collective, operating on principles alien to human understanding, still failed to grasp the depth of their miscalculation. Their leadership, hidden in their central hive world, believed they could weather this storm as they had other conflicts throughout their history. Admiral. Commander Jackson approached Rice with a data tablet. The Morith have rejected the Alliance Council's recommendation to surrender those responsible. They've begun mobilizing their main fleet. Admiral Rice studied the tactical display. They still don't understand. Prepare the Phoenix Protocol for full implementation. Ma'am, Jackson hesitated. Phoenix Protocol at full implementation would mean. I know exactly what it means, Commander. Her voice was quiet but resolute. They were warned. The human fleet regrouped, joined now by a second fleet emerging from hiding places within supposedly empty regions of space. Together, they set course for the Morith home system, not their colony worlds or outposts, but Vespa Prime itself, the cradle of Morith civilization and seat of their collective consciousness. This time, there was no warning broadcast, no ultimatum. The combined human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel surrounding the planet completely. Before the Morith Defense Forces could respond, every ship activated a technology the Alliance had never seen: gravimetric distortion fields that altered the planet's orbital mechanics. From the Alliance Council observation room, representatives watched in horror as Vespa Prime's orbit began to decay. Not rapidly enough to prevent evacuation, but inexorably, scientifically, precisely. Within days, the planet would spiral into its sun. "This is genocide," the Morith representative shrieked. "They're destroying our homeworld." Councillor Telluri's skin had gone completely white, a sign of extreme distress in their species. "You still don't understand, do you? They're not trying to exterminate your species. They're sending a message that will echo through galactic history." Finally comprehending the scale of their error, the Morith Collective surrendered unconditionally. Those responsible for planning the attack were handed over to human authorities. Reparations were arranged for the families of the children killed and injured on Novaterra. With the same precision they had demonstrated in their attacks, the human fleet stabilized Vespa Prime's orbit, preventing its destruction. The message had been delivered. In the aftermath, the Treaty of Second Contact was negotiated. This time, no one questioned Article 1, which stated in clear, unambiguous language: "The harming of any sentient species' offspring is prohibited under all circumstances and will be considered a crime against sentience itself." Years later, when asked why humans had reacted with such overwhelming force, Ambassador Elena Vasquez explained to a gathering of Alliance representatives, "Throughout our history, humans have fought countless wars for territory, for resources, for ideology. But nothing unites us like a threat to our children. We tried to warn you. It was the one line you should never have crossed." The incident became a cornerstone of interspecies relations, a cautionary tale taught to diplomatic cadets throughout the galaxy. The lesson was simple and terrible. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their hidden technology or military prowess, but their evolutionary imperative to protect their young at any cost. In time, the Morith rebuilt their civilization and rejoined galactic society, though never again with their former influence. The Alliance reformed its governance to prevent any single species from acting unilaterally, and humanity continued its expansion among the stars, no longer hiding their capabilities but using them primarily for defense and exploration. The children of Novaterra were memorialized in a monument of 17 crystal pillars that caught the light of the twin suns, sending rainbows across the landscape. At the base, a simple inscription read, "They were warned." Throughout the galaxy, the message was received and understood. You may challenge humans in many ways, but harm their children, and you invite a retribution beyond calculation. The full, terrible force of a species evolved to protect its future at any cost.